Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for joining us here today on this beautiful, typical Santa Clarita morning. I want to thank Santa Clarita Mayor Bob Keller for being here, Victorville City Councilman Mike Rothschild, Cemex Regional President Steve Wise, and Executive Advisory Council member Andy Freed for joining me here. And also we have the rest of the Santa Clarita City Council, Santa Clarita Mayor Pro Tem Frank Ferry, Council members Lorene West, Marcia McLean, and the new council member Laurie Ender. Also, we're really happy to have with us this morning our state senator, George Runner, and our state assembly woman, Sharon Runner. They might be related.
Might be.
All of them have really helped in getting us to this point where we are here today. Over the past year, I've been working with the City of Santa Clarita and Cemex USA to help negotiate a legislative solution to end the dispute over the proposed aggregate mine in the Soledad Canyon. With help from our friends in the city of Victorville, I believe we've come up with a legislative proposal that I introduced yesterday that achieves that goal. With all the major players standing here in agreement, we have a strong team to take this legislative proposal back to Washington and begin the uphill process of working it through to completion. 16 months ago, I was pleased to see the City of Santa Clarita and Cemex enter into a truce over the mine. You know, this had been a war zone up till that point for several years. And I want to commend them for being willing to step back and work behind the scenes in a team effort to really achieve the goal that we're here about today. This truce was an important milestone, and for the first time since the Bureau of Land Management first entered into those contracts in 1990 with what was then Southdown, the city and the company holding those mining contracts have worked together and not against each other to find a solution. What Cemex has done, different than Southdown, is listen to this community. I remember dealing with Southdown. It was a tough proposition. Their idea was, no matter what you want, we're just gonna run over you. And they were very arrogant about it. Cemex has been a totally different proposition. Gilberto Hernandez, the president of Cemex down in Houston, I've had the opportunity of meeting with several times. Every time he's told me he was going to do something, he's kept his word and has shown that he wants to be a good neighbor. He has an obligation to his stockholders and the owners of the company to complete contractual obligations. And that contract in 1990 said that they would mine that area that we're talking about. The only way that they could get out of that would be if the government backed off from that contract. This proposal, which I introduced yesterday, would cancel the Soledad Canyon mining contracts that Cemex has with the U.S. Bureau of Land Management, thereby ending the possibility of any future mining in Soledad Canyon. The legislation also will fully and fairly compensate Cemex for having its contracts with BLM canceled by providing the company with land near Victorville, California that is comparable in value to the company's investment in the canceled contracts. The company intends to sell the land, if required, as part of this land legislation to help with the Victorville's area's future economic development plans. Let me be clear, the BLM land in Victorville will not and cannot be used for any future mining. We're not trading one mine for another. The city of Victorville has an excellent economic development plan for their community, and we're happy that we could help speed up the process for them by releasing these BLM-held parcels early. Victorville has a separate agreement with Cemex USA not addressed in the legislation on how these lands will be used for economic development purposes. If the legislation were to pass tomorrow, the community of Santa Clarita would win their long-fought battle over the mine, Cemex USA would be rightly compensated for their aggregate, and the city of Victorville would have 5,000 plus acres of formerly federally held lands to enhance their tax base. I look forward to working towards this goal and pushing this legislative solution back in Washington. We've already had some good conversations with Senator Feinstein, and yesterday I talked with the chairman of the committee that deals with this issue in the House and the other top Democrat on the committee, and hopefully we'll have their support as we move forward. Our local city council here in Santa Clarita has already worn out a few pairs of shoes in DC making the rounds, and we're going to need them to continue to work on that process. I want to again thank all of them, thank all of you for dealing so well and so honestly and hard fought this process. And I'd like to now introduce Mayor Keller for his comments.
This truly is a great day for everybody in the great city of Santa Clarita. I appreciate the opportunity to speak on another banner day for our community. On behalf of the Santa Clarita City Council, thank you, Congressman McKeon, for your leadership in sponsoring the Soledad Canyon Mine Act. A little over a year ago, we were fighting a mining project in Soledad Canyon. Today, through the efforts of Congressman McKeon and others, we stand side by side with Cemex to proudly applaud the introduction of this bill. This important piece of legislation is a win-win-win solution for all involved. No longer would we face the potential of mining in Soledad Canyon. Soledad Canyon would be protected as open space for generations to come, and Cemex would be able to receive fair compensation for its contracts with the Bureau of Land Management. In crafting this bill, Congressman McKeon proved government, community groups, and the private sector can work together to solve problems. By devoting his efforts to seeing this bill through Congress and onto the President's desk, Congressman McKeon will achieve a lasting legacy for the residents of Santa Clarita. Santa Clarita has been rated one of the best places to live in the country because quality of life has always been paramount for the residents of the Santa Clarita Valley. Congressman McKeon's bill will safeguard our cherished quality of life. With this bill's passage, we will never again need to worry about the threats this sand and gravel mine would bring to our borders. The residents of Santa Clarita have long rejected the proposed mining project in Soledad Canyon. Our community's concerns with the size of the aggregate mine, air pollution, and increased traffic the mine would bring to our region resulted in a nearly decade-long disagreement with Cemex. In February 2007, we agreed with Cemex to call a halt to negative rhetoric so that we could work together toward finding a solution. The Soledad Canyon Mine Act is that solution. We thank Cemex for agreeing to come to the table and work hard over the last several months on this matter. We thank the city of Victorville for its willingness to participate in this solution. Most of all, we thank our Congressman McKeon, whose leadership brought us here today and whose continued commitment will see the Soledad Mine Act signed into law. Thank you, Congressman, for this, a winning solution for all concerned.
Thank you, Mayor Keller. Now we'd like to hear from Mike Rothschild, a 20-year veteran member of the City Council in Victorville. Mr. Rothschild.
I'm just here to represent Victorville and let you know that we are a willing partner in something that seems to be a no-brainer to me. It's a three-way trade. The economy is improved immensely. The environment is improved immensely with this deal. And I'll tell you, it speaks strongly to gerrymandering. Buck wouldn't believe this, but here's Victorville sitting way over here in the one corner of his district, and here's a problem 80, 90 miles away over here on the other side of the district. And we have a common interest to solve a problem and to create an economic point. All due respect to the greater Southern California area, Victorville is going to be the hottest spot in Southern California over the next decade here. We've got the former George Air Force Base, SCLA, closed. We've got huge developments. We've got the jet train from Las Vegas that's coming and anchoring right into the real estate that we're interested in. We've got an $800 million power plant in that same region being built as we speak. And we've got an intermodal that's connecting the Port of Long Beach and the Port of Los Angeles. And that intermodal is, again, in the same real estate area that we're interested in the city of Victorville. So this is a win for everybody, including all of the constituents in Southern California, not just in Buck's district, but in fact for everybody here. This is incredible, and as others may speak later, the environment is improved by this too. You can work together in a positive way to get both economy boosted and the environment improved. So with that, Victorville is here to support and congratulate Congressman Buck McKeon for his efforts. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mike. Victorville's just a short hop and a skip from here. We go up past Mammoth and Bishop and all the way to Nevada. This is a large congressional district. Now we'd like to hear from Steve Wise, speaking out on behalf of Cemex and representing President Gilberto Perez.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Congressman McKeon, State Senator Runner, Assemblywoman Runner, Mr. Bob Keller, Terry Rothschild, and other distinguished guests, on behalf of Gilberto Perez, Cemex U.S. President, and as President of the Pacific Region for Cemex, I'm pleased to represent my company today as Congressman McKeon announces the introduction of the Soledad Canyon Mine Act, the purpose of which is to resolve a long-standing dispute between the city of Santa Clarita and Cemex over the proposed quarry at Soledad Canyon. I would like to thank Congressman McKeon and the leadership of the cities of Santa Clarita and Victorville for their sincere effort and cooperation in reaching this important milestone in the process. We believe the legislation introduced by Congressman McKeon yesterday addresses the concerns of the city of Santa Clarita while also compensating Cemex for the loss of its valuable contracts with the federal government. It will be critical that these cornerstones of the legislation remain intact as we move through the legislative process in both the House of Representatives and the Senate. The introduction of the legislation by Congressman McKeon starts us on a legislative journey that we hope and trust results in this legislation becoming law by the end of the year. We look forward to working with the Congressman in the cities of Santa Clarita and Victorville in achieving that important objective. We also look forward to earning the support of California's distinguished senators, Senator Feinstein and Boxer, as this process moves forward. We are eager to bring this dispute to an end and are confident that this important milestone brings us closer to that day. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. And now we'd like to hear from Andy Freed, the chairman of the advisory committee that has worked so hard to make this happen. Andy.
Thank you very much. It's really an honor to be here. Congressman, thank you very, very much for inviting me. Guests, Mayor Keller, Senator Runner, really is an honor to be here. I really want to keep my remarks very, very brief. We need to have time for questions, I'm sure. At this point, I would like to take the opportunity to thank Congressman McKeon and his staff for their incredible efforts on our behalf. I'd like to thank the City of Santa Clarita, the City Council, for standing firm in a search for a solution, and we have found one. The representatives of Cemex, who have helped keep the communication focused, a dedicated Santa Clarita City staff, and now a dedicated Victorville staff. I'd like to thank Councilman Mike Rothschild of Victorville, and also an extremely committed group of community members who compose both the Executive Advisory Committee and SAFE's board of directors. I've written a lot here, and I really think that it isn't necessary to get into it. I found it fascinating, however. I walked into a building in Valencia the other day, and I found myself facing a sign that said, "This door is to remain closed at all times." Now, please correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't that sort of defeat the purpose of the door? We are here this morning to celebrate an incredible effort on the part of Cemex, the City of Santa Clarita, and Congressman McKeon, the communication that they have successfully developed as they continually walk through that proverbial shut door. From a position of opposition that the Congressman mentioned, which was very confrontational in 1999 and 2000, to this absolutely glorious morning here in Santa Clarita. Cemex and Congressman McKeon and the City of Santa Clarita have ultimately used a hero of mine, a man by the name of Harold Janine, who was very, very successful in business for a long time. And Harold wrote a book based on 5 essential skills for success, which they have used very well here. Those are concentration, discrimination, organization, innovation, and most important, communication. And the tangible result of that communication is the result, is this agreement that has been reached by Santa Clarita and Cemex and carefully crafted into the legislative package that Congressman McKeon just discussed. I want to thank you all for being here. It's been an absolute honor. We have worked on this for 10 years, and now we see a resolution. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Andy. You know, some people enjoy fighting and some people enjoy working together and getting things done. I think this is a great example of what you can do when you work together to get something done. I thank you for thanking our staffs. You know, I have a lot of members of my staff here, and the city has a lot of members of their staff here. A lot of people have worked very hard for this. I'm not going to start getting into names, but I want to thank all of them for the great job that they have done. And now, if you have any questions, we'd be happy to take one or two. Carl.
With a lame duck Congress right now, if this stalls this year, would you reintroduce it next year in January?
Yeah, we're not a lame duck yet. We just act like it. After the election, if we come back to Washington, then we'll be a lame duck because you have people that may not continue but are still in office until next January. No, my plan, I'm hopeful. I want to work as hard as we can to try to finish it up this year. I think that's our best opportunity. But if we don't get it done this year, that would be the first bill I would introduce next year on the first day of Congress. So my goal is, though, to get it done this year.
Has Brad Sherman teamed up on this in any way yet?
I haven't talked to Brad about it. I'm sure Brad would be supportive. He's indicated in the past he would be supportive. He's not on a committee of jurisdiction, so that's where you start. But we'll reach out to everybody. Yes, Carol.
Is there a dollar figure on the compensation for the land?
I don't know what the dollar. That will be worked out through the appraisal process by the BLM. We have met together with the secretary, and I talked to him again last week, and he's apprised of where we are and what we're doing, and has been supportive. So.
Do we have an idea of current value, or?
I don't.
Yet to be determined.
I think that will be determined as we go through the process. The main thing I think to understand is this will be land exchange, value for value, and that will be the thing that we concentrate on. If there are no other, yes?
Can you talk about the timeline if you introduce the legislation yesterday, then what happens next? I know you're hoping to get it done by the end of the year, but...
we put a bill in yesterday, and I hand delivered a copy of the bill to the chairman of the committee. And last Congress, when I was the chairman, I helped him get a mining bill passed that was very important to West Virginia, Nick Rahal. And I told him at the time I would be coming to him for help on some future time. There are different things he could do. He could, depending on how busy their committee is, we have very little time left in this year, actual legislative days. They're planning on adjourning the Congress at the end of September. So he could move it on a fast track, or depending on how he decides to deal with it, he could hold hearings. He could start at the subcommittee level, the full committee level, and then if he decides to move forward, they mark up the bill in committee, and then we move to try to get the bill brought to the floor. So there's lots of steps, and we'll be working to be as expeditious as possible.
Any other obstacles that you can...
Any other obstacles?
I'm sure there are a lot, but I mean, if you can highlight the ones that you think may be a problem.
You know, we've talked a little bit about it. We know that there are many potential obstacles. This sets a precedent, and so there's possible people that would oppose on that issue. And I know Cemex is very important in their association of other mining companies. They'll be working hard to help us in that area. The city of Santa Clarita will be working hard to get Senator Feinstein on board. That's very important. You never know. Opposition comes from lots of different places. You just need to be, it's like everything else. This has taken a long time to get here to this point, because I felt until we had all the parties working together in hand to move forward, there was no reason to drop any legislation. So this is a major accomplishment, but there still could be lots of other opposition, and we will jointly work to overcome each obstacle as it happens until you get to the president's desk. Yes?
Do you have this agreement with the BLM, or they're not going to come back later and say, you know what, thanks?
We don't have an agreement with the BLM. The BLM kind of doesn't get involved until you move the legislative process. What we have done is met with the secretary, and we have his agreement on what we're doing. I think when he sees how we've all worked together to get to this point, I think he'll be, what our hope is there, we don't have the BLM opposing it as we go through the process. That will be the best we can hope for at this point. If they remain neutral, then we fight the battle in the legislative process, and we get the bill moved through. And we'll keep him apprised, working closely with us as we go. We'll let the White House know what we're doing. And hopefully you just try to eliminate obstacles as you move. Yes?
I know you were talking about the dollar figure, and that's to be determined, but can you at least talk about what the dollar figure is for the land in Victorville? Sort of appraisal on that land?
No, because that will be determined as we go through the process. See, when you introduce legislation, there's a passage of time between when the legislature is introduced and when it finally becomes law. And you don't set a value now. I mean, I remember talking to Southdown 15 years ago about this, and they were talking about a dollar number. Well, that's changed. Inflation, time has gone, value of aggregate's gone up, been a lot of change over the time. So if there's no further questions, thank you all.
You just got a bill number 5887. 5887.
We just got the bill number. It's HR 5887. I never remember bill numbers, but I'll remember that one. Thank you all very much.
Howdy, friends. It's time to dust off your boots and head on over to the city of Santa Clarita's annual Cowboy Festival. The Old West comes alive. As you walk down the streets of the Melody Ranch Motion Picture Studio, there'll be non-stop entertainment all weekend with nationally renowned musicians and cowboy poets. Get fitted up with authentic cowboy gear and taste the best cowboy grub in the West. So come on out to the historic Melody Ranch Motion Picture Studio in the rustic hills of Santa Clarita.